There are lyrics to a gospel song that say, sin will cost you more than you want to pay. Sin will take you farther than you want to go, and sin will keep you longer than you want to stay. Samson experienced the high cost of low living. Welcome to the Word for 2021. Today we're in Judges chapter 16. In this chapter, Samson meets another woman and he gets entangled with her. Her name is Delilah. Now the Philistines hired Delilah to find out, where does Samson's strength come from? There seemed to be no outward sign. He might have even looked scrawny, but he had great strength, and they needed to find out, where did that great strength come from? Did it come from magic? Did it come from conjuring? They didn't have any idea that it was God that made him strong. There seemed to be no indication of faith. Which leads us to ask the question of ourselves. When people look at us, is there observable evidence that we have a relationship with God? Can they tell that our strength and our hope comes from God? Or is it a question in many people's minds? That's what was taking place with the Philistines. They wanted to find out, where did his great strength come from? Now, when Delilah was there with Samson, she wasn't subtle at all. She didn't try and hide her motives. In fact, this is exactly what she said to Samson every time. Tell me the secret of your great strength and how you can be tied up and subdued. Sin is just like that. So many times it's blatant. It's right out there. It doesn't even hide itself. But still, choices are made to sin. Because of arrogance and foolishness, Samson played with the enemy. 3 different times he gave Delilah a false answer, but she continued to press and she wore him down. And the 4th time she asked, he told her the truth. And while he was sleeping, she had someone come in and cut off Samson's hair. Now, Samson's hair, that was not where his strength lied. It was the Spirit of God that came upon Samson that gave him his great strength. But with the cutting of his hair, it was the most visible sign of his Nazirite vow. When Samson's hair was cut, it severed his tie with God. Then in verse 20, through presumption, Samson thought, well, I will just free myself as I have done every single other time. Not realizing, it says, that the Spirit of the Lord had left him. You know, that's one of the saddest verses in all the Bible. But he did not know that the Lord had left him. When Samson was captured, this is what took place. He was blinded, he was bound, and then they put him down to grind corn. That's exactly what sin does in our lives. Sin blinds us, and sin binds us, and it grinds us. We're blinded to understand all the effects of sin, and we're bound by it. We're no longer in control, but we are captive to sin. And sin will grind us down, where we end up feeling as though there is no hope whatsoever. But because of the grace of God, God brought hope. In verse 28, in prayer, Samson humbles himself before God, and then God answers. Samson prays, Lord, please remember me. That's a prayer that others have prayed in the Bible as well. Just like the thief on the cross that said to Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Or Hannah when she was praying for a child. What do these verses tell us, just like when Samson prayed, remember me? In humility, God answers the prayer of an unbeliever, just like the thief on the cross. God will answer the prayer of a believer with a burden, and God will answer the prayer of a believer who has blown it. Humility is the key. And so as we're taking a look here in chapter 16, Samson, he continued to live for himself. He did not understand what he was doing. He was playing with the enemy, and he was captured, blinded, and ground down. But in humility, when he prayed, God answered. And God will do the same. If we come to him in humility, God will answer. Thank you for joining the Word for 2021.